You know that feeling when you finish a great book or a movie and the ending just makes everything that came before it suddenly click into place? Well, we're about to pull back the curtain on the framework that explains that exact feeling. It's called the Ouroboros Protocol, and it's going to change how you see stories because it shows us they aren't straight lines at all. They're living, breathing systems.
And this quote right here, this is the whole game. We need to forget about the simple A leads to B leads to C kind of plot. The Ouroboros Protocol shows us that the most powerful stories have a kind of secret architecture, a hidden engine, where the ending is constantly, and I mean constantly, reaching back in time to influence the beginning.
So what is this thing really? Well, the name Ouroboros comes from that ancient symbol of a serpent eating its own tail, right? That eternal cycle. The protocol brilliantly merges this ancient idea with a modern scientific concept called a complex adaptive system, or CAS for short. Now just think of a story like it's an ecosystem, or even a brain. It's a self-regulating world where every single part affects every other part. But the key is that the ending has the most influence of all.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to climb what's called a conceptual pyramid, piece by piece. We'll start with the big idea of the serpent itself. Then we'll lay the foundation of the story world, build its engine of change, climb all the way to the summit of meaning, and finally we'll watch it all connect in the never-ending loop.
First up, the serpent and the story. And I gotta tell you, this requires a pretty major shift in how we usually think about plot. We have to move away from simple cause and effect. The argument argues that the greatest stories are actually designed backwards. You, the writer, have to start with the singular truth of the ending because that is what gives meaning to absolutely everything that comes before.
Let me show you exactly what I mean. On the left, you've got your standard linear causality. It's like dominoes falling, right? One thing predictably leads to the next. Simple. But on the right, you have circular causality, which is so much more interesting. It's more like a thermostat. The effect, the temperature in the room, is constantly feeding information back to control the cause, the furnace turning on or off. In a story, this means the emotional punch of the ending literally changes the meaning of the very first chapter. Just think about a movie like The Sixth Sense. That final twist doesn't just end the story, it forces you to completely rewatch the entire film in your head through a brand new lens. That's circular causality.
Okay, so now we begin our climb up this fractal pyramid of narrative. These first 4 levels are basically the essential building blocks. They create the story's entire reality, starting from a single core idea and expanding out into the rich, textured world of the story. So let's just walk through this real quick. It all starts at level 0, with the core loop, the main idea. That idea immediately splits into a duality at level 1. You know, your classic hero versus villain. Level 2 then brings in the variables, the things we know, and more importantly, the things we don't know. That's what creates mystery. And finally, all of that comes together at level 3 to build the texture, the rich, tangible world the characters actually get to live and breathe in. Now let's zoom in on level 3 for a second, because this part is just fascinating. The protocol actually breaks down a story's texture into these 8 specific pieces. And this isn't just a random list of details. This is the literal machinery of storytelling. So for instance, look at the top. You've got the internal known, which is just the hero's goal, right? I want to solve the case. Then you have the external known, the villain who's in their way. But then you have the unknowns, like a random unknown, that's your big twist that kicks off the plot, and a systemic unknown, that's the hidden conspiracy working in the shadows. This whole table shows you how all these different pieces, from a physical clue like a weapon to an intangible feeling like the mood in a room, all work together to build a world that feels completely real. So, with our foundation firmly in place, it is time to build the engine. This is what actually drives the story forward. We're going to look at the mechanics that create all the momentum, the conflict, and most importantly, the change in a character. You know, pacing isn't just about going fast or slow. It's way smarter than that. It's about managing the story's energy through these feedback loops. So you have negative feedback, which creates stability. It's that quiet moment after a huge battle where the hero stops and thinks. It lets us, the audience, catch our breath. Then you have positive feedback, which creates instability. That's the car chase, the shocking revelation, the thing that pushes the story to its absolute breaking point. And a truly great story is always dancing between the two.
Now, the real core of this engine is an idea borrowed from philosophy called the Hegelian dialectic. It all starts with a thesis. This is a character's starting belief about the world, their personal status quo. So, for example, you have a detective who truly believes, I must work alone to succeed.
Then, bam, the plot introduces the antithesis. This is the challenge, the disruption, the thing that directly attacks that core belief. Our lone wolf detective is suddenly forced to team up with their bitter rival just to survive the case. And right there, that's your central conflict. And finally, we get the synthesis. See, the character doesn't just win or lose, they evolve. They take a little truth from their old belief and a little truth from the new challenge, and they form a new, higher understanding. Our detective learns that, yeah, independence is good, but sometimes interdependence is absolutely necessary. And guess what? This new belief, it just becomes the thesis for their next challenge, starting the whole amazing cycle all over again.
We are now approaching the summit of our pyramid. This is the really cool part, where all the mechanical pieces we've just talked about, the structure, the pacing, the conflict, they all combine to create something truly profound. The story's theme, its deepest meaning.
So at level 7, we find these things called fractal patterns. All that really means is that the small pieces of the story start to reflect the whole thing. That thesis, antithesis, synthesis arc we just saw in a character, well, you'll see that same pattern play out in a single scene and then again across the entire story. And then, at level 8, something kind of magical happens. Emergence. This is the idea that a story's theme isn't something the author just writes in. It's more like a ghost in the machine that just appears when all the other parts work together perfectly. It's the meaning you feel, not the one you're told.
And all of this incredible complexity, every single character arc, every subplot, every twist and turn, it all collapses down into one single thing at the very top of the pyramid. Level 9, the singular truth. This is the one powerful, controlling idea that the entire complex system was built to prove. In a movie like The Dark Knight, the whole story is just a giant argument between Batman's singular truth, that people are good, and the Joker's, that they're agents of chaos. The whole film is a machine built just to prove Batman right.
And now we've finally reached the end, which, of course, is also the beginning. This is the moment where the serpent finally bites its own tail, completing the entire circuit and showing us why this framework is just so powerful for writers and for us as readers.
The protocol has this great name for this final moment. It's called the Radiant Chomp. It's that deeply satisfying click when the ending locks into place. It doesn't just wrap up the plot, it definitively proves that level 9 singular truth, and in doing so, it sends this wave of meaning backwards through the entire story, lighting up everything from the very first page. It's what makes the whole journey feel both surprising and, when you look back, absolutely inevitable.
But here's the thing, the story doesn't really end there. For you, the reader or the viewer, it becomes a new beginning. Because by understanding this structure, you can now see the hidden architecture in all your favorite stories. So the final question isn't about the story ending, it's about what happens next. After seeing the serpent bite its tail, what movie or book will you look at now and see not as a straight line, but as a living, breathing, beautiful loop?